YouTube. Although it's been months before I did even a new deck profile, I'm about to continue forward on my same old deck, the Artist Magician deck profile, but with some new updates. Surprisingly, this deck has always been here for me, and has been winning me most of my duels. Even my friends were even grateful that I still have this deck, because they know how reliant I've been, heavily able to use this deck on my own without any assistance, and only I can utilize it. So with that being said, let me give you further details of this profile. 3 Wisdom Eye for obvious reasons. It's the only way you can get your first turn Pendulum Summons, and that way, if you have Magicians, obviously, although they seem already like almost closer to being tier 0, this is my own build, so it's not entirely going to be about the Zarka Magicians, but the original Magicians, where they help support Odd Eyes. We got the Pits, you got the Oafs, the Nobles, and the Pulse. Those being mentioned, I hardly even see any of those cards being utilized, only except with Odd Eyes archetype. For those playing Magician Pendulums, I'd assume that'd be better, but it's up to me and my personal preference. 3 Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon. A new tech in my deck, more than one. With these 3, I'm able to utilize Odd Eyes very significantly. However, it only works unless an Odd Eyes card is destroyed. Even if it were to be in the scale, you don't have to always have Dragon Pit, because now back row these days isn't too heavy, and it gives me that option whether I want to destroy a card from my opponent's spell and trap card zone or my spell and trap card zone, or if I want to just spam more monsters and go into my ace monster as soon as possible. What I'll be showing you coming forward, and might surprise you even as to what you expect from a great duelist like me. Even more cards I have that are able to confuse my opponents, and no one has ever thought it would be of high acceptance, and no one would even expect if this deck is too good, too slow, or too old as an archetype. But as an archetype, for me, this suits me very well, and I've been very professional with it, and no problems have been made for me where I decide to cut it off and choose a new deck. The only thing I would choose is to replace the cards from my deck, rather than get rid of my entire investment that I made a budget on based on deck I haven't been playing at this age while getting older. Of course, your obvious boss monster, Odd Eyes Pendulum's Dragon. I don't see any reason of cutting him. It's up to you, but he's the real reason how I even got to the extra deck and be able to summon new monsters. He evolves every time I have him. He's not only the ace monster of the show, but he's the only way I can get into bigger monsters, and the whole point of me even being able to have stronger monsters. Now, obviously, Dragon Pit that I mentioned. Although back row hasn't really been a thing, I always have it just in case. Damn, now my other tricky card. This card has really been a handful, because I had my friends, while up against the card, all those is just the stepping stone of my deck. Players still have trouble getting around it, but every time it targets during either player's turn, we obviously know just bouncing both my monster and their best monsters back and forth. And because of Pendulums, it has a place in my deck where I can't really see myself cutting it. Speaking of, Mist Valley Apex Ivyana 3. A lot of people have cut it now since because they thought that it was too bricky. But for me, free negation, anyone. I just keep the bet rolling and guaranteed this card is still great at 3. And one of my sexiest cards, 3 Chocolate Magician Girl. Her being there is simply to get the easy draw power. I could care less about her last effect because it's only to add coverage, and coverage is what I need in order to save my life points. Meaning that my life could be spared when depending whether my opponent decides to attack or not. And plus, they lose more. Their monsters get weaker if they when making this decision, and I get even more cards. You got obviously the one is Perform Pal Synchron for more synchro options. A new edition, Timebreaker Magician as another Fairy Tail Luna. Dragon Pulse for that simple Raigeki. The Odd Eyes Perform Pal Odd Eyes Dissolver as an extra fusion. My big mob boss monster, Odd Eyes Lancer Dragon. Although I don't see much use of it, although it may not be a pendulum card, it's where I can be able to protect my Odd Eyes as to where it surrounds my monster into getting them as much protection as possible. I am aware as to what's to come to this deck if I don't have Odd Eyes, so he's a must-off. Just simply because he can be easily summoned by Odd Eyes like Pendulum Dragon. And when I decide whenever I need that 3k beat stick. I spend Jump Dragon's younger brother, Mirage. I can never see myself playing more than one. Basically because he's just there to stand beside our Pendulum Dragon if he's not around, and as a replacement if he leaves. Zenkai, I still haven't given up on that Odd Eyes Raging Dragon strategy where I can blow up my opponent's field, because that's in case I don't have Raigeki in my hand. And I can just OTK them whichever the best time is. And once I have my whole field set, and damn, the opponent at that point is confused and wondering how I even accomplish strategy with just 60 cards. Noble Dragon, although not the best tuner monster, it helps me with these. It makes link plays more possible and faster. And Performer Pal Pendulum Sorcerer. Eventually, I'm not going to be wanting this card, although it's a Pendulum card that suits Duelist Alliance. Eventually, I'm going to replace this with Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon once it gets reprinted into English. That way, I can use Odd Eyes more often. 3 Oath Dragon Magician for obvious reasons. Get those loops going and helping me do more link summons. Phantom Dragon's alternate counterpart. You got the cousin of Mirage Dragon, Odd Eyes Persona Dragon. Just simple as if I had a 4th Mista Valley Pexavion. 3 Duelist Alliance. Never seen it get hits. Basically a Rhoda of my deck. The way I can get my boss monsters when I choose to want to, and whenever I choose to get my magicians is how I want to go. 3 Sky Iris. Although it's bricky, which is why I don't play Terraforming. 3 Pot of Desires. Rather than going for Terraforming, I choose to prefer to play Pot of Desires because that's already my Terraforming. Where if I play Terraforming, it's a brick because Sky Iris doesn't discard from land, rather it removes from the field. Odd Eyes Fusion for clutch plays as another fusion, so you got 3 Pendulum Call that I mentioned. Just a simple way to go for my first turn, as if I had no Odd Eyes. If I had no Odd Eyes cards, I'm gonna have to go to my Magicians just to further my Pendulum Summon. Raigeki. My second Raigeki is the Dark Hole coming forward. The Monster Reborn card, which everyone should be expecting because I'm even surprised it's even that one. I have another one that's limited too, Solemn Judgment, as you see. I have no problem playing it, and then just having is basically becomes a new replacement for all these cards I may not need, and still have many. Storming Mirror Force that I always kept with me, bouncing like I had a fourth Luna. We got the 2 Drowning Mirror Force, never had I got rid of it, still on my deck because it's just unleashes its full potential when you used correctly. Just mainly gets rid of pretty much almost any threat. Although it has to be a direct attack, your opponent will least expect it. 2 Solemn Strikes to end it all, as my for the Solemn Brigade, and my final trap cards, 3 Evenly Matched. Although this card, I'm not gonna lie, this card is amazing, but only works on the first turn, the first time you use it. Though not much has been seen from this card, as a lot of play, though it hasn't been doing a lot for me lately. The only time I see useful is the whole point to see is on the first turn, you do well, you give your opponent's board, and you have to worry about having to like be distracted or having to go through time where your deck is being stuck for periods of time, or basically preventing you from special summoning and using monster effect spell cards, because that's where my deck lacks luster. Is if I don't have this card, I'm basically screwed. There are times I have to use it once, the moment I draw 2 or 3. There are times I feel like I don't need those 2 or 3. But the whole point is I need to see this card right now to get rid of my opponent's board, and that's how my deck is able to accomplish that, by having to get the second that second round coming up on top, because I choose whether I want to go first or second, and Evenly Matches there the moment I have it on my second turn, when the duel starts, and it's always been there for me at 1. But those 2 and the other 3 have never been of use. But the fact is that I succeed in having to get the upper hand against my opponent, and they fear the most that this card is just gonna push them to their limits, to the point where their strategy is gone. Since I finished already my city card main deck, it wasn't too long. 3 Electromite. This card is a must-off. Either you choose 2 or 3. This card has been there for me, like, damn. Being able to just loop, just like Ulfdrag, and just draw. He's a main factor of this deck. Even the main reason why this deck, even while this deck coordinates, he probably is the theme of the deck of Pendulums. Why else should he stay at 3? Is because the main reason that he's part Pendulum, based on the text. But yeah, as a Link Monster, he accomplishes his like goals for what Pendulums couldn't do if there was no Oath Dragon. Had they had no Oath Dragon, the only way you can rely on loops is to have only Electromite and other decks that surround him that can combine with Electromite and gaining more card advantage. Obvious, another level rank 8 I've kept is a new card, Hope Harbinger. Sexiest card I ever have right now is that Greasy Borlo Dragon. The mighty Saryuja Skulldread. Although lately I've been using him, he's a 4th way in my deck to draw more cards. And I love the arrows because that means I can utilize more Pendulum Summon and having to summon the extra 2 and getting another one. Had I not been able to Link Summon on my first turn, I can use Electromite for later. Or if once I elect summon and had I not Link summoned, the turn I have a Pendulum Summon, I already have unless I've already Pendulum monsters, I can Link Summon twice. And he's there simply because primarily he's a beat stick. And he basically makes every Pendulum monster in my deck a beat stick. Because the whole point, you summon from your extra deck, you got a beat stick. Easy how it goes, because he's not the beat stick, he makes the deck a beat stick with the monsters I have. Obvious card, Big Eye, for if I want to continue with Link Summoning. Supreme King, Starving Venom, if I want to copy Electromite for more draw power, or to go for a second Ignister. Ignister already, I have the Meteor Burst, the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon to negate more effects as a third Solemn Strike. Raging, like I mentioned, for Genkei's effect to be useful. Sign Frame, Overlord, and Mega for loop effects. And the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon for if I want to continue playing Solemn Judgment, if I don't have my Mist Valley Pexavion. The last card, Absolute, to have more options on how I want to utilize my Odd Eyes. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Have a good night. I'm out. Black Sun Goku.